In this video, we're going to take a look at the basics of creating a floor plan in Chief Architect. I'll cover the different types of walls used in a floor plan, how to draw the walls, define the ceiling or the wall height, and place dimensions. Dimensions can be created to be view-specific, such as those used for a kitchen plan or for a detailed floor plan. So I'll cover how to do this using layers through the Save Plan views in Chief Architect. When you first begin by choosing a new plan, the software will ask you if you want to use imperial or metric units for your dimensions, and if you want to use a residential or interiors template. If you accidentally choose the wrong type of template, you can always reset this in your preferences under New Plans. The residential and interior templates are optimized for the type of project you may be working on. They do have similarities, and you can do either type of project in these templates. If you want to learn more about using templates, please see our other videos or our built-in help file. When you start a new plan, you'll have a new untitled plan. It will be set to the working plan view as well as the working layer set. You will also see a referenced grid displayed on your screen. For the purpose of the video, I like to turn that off to reduce the clutter. At the top of the screen, you're going to see the wall tools for the exterior, the interior, the railing walls, and then the curved walls. There are also the tools for the doors, windows, and other architectural tools in the program. For the video, I'm going to create a very simple floor plan. I'll begin by selecting an exterior straight wall, and I'm going to come down and left-click and drag the approximate length that I'm interested in. You may notice a temporary dimension is being displayed as I draw out the wall. I usually use that as an approximate guide. I don't worry about being exact because I'm going to show you how to use the dimension tools and create precise dimensions. My exterior wall is still active. I'm going to left click and drag and come down the side, release my mouse, click and drag, and when I get to the edge, you'll notice a perpendicular alignment snap when it indicates that it's in line with the wall above. I'll go ahead and release my mouse, and then I'll click and drag and complete this. Now when I finish, you're going to notice the dimensions will be automatically placed. This began in version X12 and newer. If you don't have automatic dimensions that get placed, you can select that tool up in your toolbar using the automatic exterior dimensions. Now at this point, I like to press the space bar to get out of the selection mode. Notice that my cursor is a plus sign. I'm just going to press the space bar to return back to a normal selection mode. To set the dimensions for your room, let's go ahead and click on the wall, and then you can drag that until you get the desired dimension. You can drag it either direction and the dimensions will update. One of the easiest ways to be precise is to come up and click on the dimension string itself, enter in the desired dimension you want. Tick sign stands for feet, the double quote stands for inches, and you can use that to set your dimensions precisely. If you click on your wall and you click on the parallel dimension, you'll see a slightly different set of dimension options. And if you move your mouse over these, it will describe that it will be moving it from the top, it will be moving it from both ends, and then finally it will be moving it from the bottom end. I usually prefer to use a perpendicular dimension because it leaves no question about which way I will be moving the wall. As you create your floor plans and set your dimensions, I usually encourage you to work in a clockwise manner. When you get around to the other side, then your dimensions are consistent and you haven't moved a wall in a direction that would offset as you have begun your process. When you create 4 walls, as I have here, you can click in the middle and a room is formed. You'll notice on my screen I have a gray highlight. That means that a room has formed, and if we take a 3D view, let's go ahead and use our camera tool, one without the ceiling on it, and let's take a look at what we have. You're going to notice that the program automatically puts in default floor colors, baseboard, wall colors. These are coming from the template plan. If you work in an area or design in an area that uses stucco or brick walls, I would encourage you to make those changes in your template plan. That way, every time you start a new design, it has the typical attributes that you begin new projects with. Now in this template plan, the room is set to be a 9-foot ceiling. Let's go ahead and tap by left clicking in the middle of this room, and let's go ahead and open by double clicking and take a look at the room's attributes. Rooms can be named on the general panel. You'll see a drop-down list of available rooms that you can choose from. You can always override the name by typing in a specific name if you don't see that room in the drop-down list. You could also add your own room types and explore that through the help menu if you wanted a custom room type available to you. On the structure panel of the dialog is where you would set the ceiling height. You'll notice a diagram over in this area on the right hand side of the screen, and as you enter in and move your mouse, you'll see these change colors to correspond with the diagram that you're changing. On the ceiling height, in this case I've got a 9-foot ceiling. It's 109 inches and an eighth, and if you want to know where that's coming from, you could basically come down and look at the different dimensions. The finished ceiling at 107 and 5/8, and if you looked at the ceiling structure and the floor finish, all of those components make up that room structure. If you're an interior designer and you just want to use a finished ceiling height, you could very easily type in 108, 96, 120 and set that as your template plan default, and that way you just have nice round dimensions. If you're a builder and you care about framing and you want to get exact stud lengths, we usually have those dimensions set for you. In these dialogues you can also use math. If you wanted to add 12 inches, you could say plus 12 or minus 12 inside the dialog, and you can actually do dimensions inside of that dialog. Notice that it updates, and when you click OK, you're going to notice that the room height changed, and in some cases you can also set defaults for the base molding and the floor colors depending on the room type that you've set. Let's move back over into the floor plan by clicking on the tab for the 2D view. And when I move back here, you're going to notice that this camera display is my active camera display. You could easily move back between the camera display and the floor plan. You can also tile your screen so you could see both simultaneously. You can do that underneath your window, come down, tile vertically, or Shift F6 on your keyboard. And this allows you to see both in the 3D view and in the 2D view. Now when you're drawing your walls in the floor plan view, you can be more precise. You can also draw your walls in the 3D view. If I come over, make this my active window by clicking on it, I can come over to the wall tool. Let's come down, let's grab our interior straight wall, and I'm just going to come over here and click and drag right through the middle of the design. And you're going to notice over in the 2D view, since I initially named that room a kitchen and divided it nearly in half, the other room is also named a kitchen. You can click on these labels and move them around. You can also click in the room, double click to open it, and from the general panel, if I were to change this room type, in this case let's call it a garage, notice what's going to happen to the flooring material when we make that change. Again, the rooms have default settings, and if I kind of tilt and orbit so you can see the side, that floor type has a slab floor of concrete that would be defined by the floor below. When you build your foundation, which is built on a separate floor, it will automatically provide that and then fill in that gap for you. So rooms have attributes that will change the flooring. They will also change the structure in some cases. And again, if you want to learn a little bit more about that, please refer to the other videos and our help file. Let me focus just on the 2D floor plan view. I'm going to close this 3D view by coming up and clicking on the Close Window button. Let's look at a couple of settings. When I drew the interior wall, I used the interior wall that came inside of the default wall using it out of the toolbar. There are a number of wall types you can use in the program, and if you use an interior and exterior wall for your drawing and you decide you want to change the wall type at a later point, you can click on these walls. Let's go ahead and double click and open it up. On the wall type panel, you'll see a drop down for the wall types. And you'll see the available wall types that shipped with the template plan you're using. If you wanted to change that wall type, you could come down here and choose a different wall type. In this case, if I switch it to an interior 6, if that were dividing the garage and the kitchen, I could easily change that to an interior 6. You can also come into these walls and you can define and create copies of these wall types. If you wanted to create a different hatching or a different fill style, you could click on this, change it. You can also choose and create copies of these walls and create custom walls if you had an 8-inch wall or a custom wall that's not available inside of the program options. And all of these walls have different layers, and when you do your materials list, it will show up in your materials list for all of the layers. In this case, I switched that wall to an interior 6, and the main thing that happened would be the middle layer for the stud. It changed from 3.5 to 5.5. And that will automatically update the dimensions for you when you make that change. And again, the automatic dimensions are set to auto refresh, and you can see the update for that. Now, if you happen to be using a version prior to Chief Architect X12 and your automatic dimensions don't instantly appear, you can always set that and turn them on through the automatic exterior dimensions. You also have control how these will be placed. Let me briefly place a door and a window, and let's take a look at how the automatic dimensions behave and how you can control them. I'm going to use the door tool. I'm going to click and place a door, and I'm going to use a window tool, and I'm going to click and place the window. Now, just like the walls, you can click on these objects, you can resize them, you can tap on the dimension, and then you can enter in a precise dimension if you don't want to slide it down the wall or click and drag it. So make sure the object is highlighted. Move your mouse up to the dimension. You'll see how my cursor changes to a finger. At that point, go ahead and click, and then you can type in the value that you want for that dimension. Now, the way these automatic dimensions have come in is they are actually going to the sides. And if you want to control how the automatic dimensions behave, you can go up to the default settings. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. Move over to the default settings tool, and underneath the dimensions you're going to find a setting for automatic exterior dimensions as well as several other dimension settings. Let's go ahead and take a look at the auto exterior dimensions. You're going to see the option to auto refresh, so I have that turned on. And on locate objects, you can control how you want to locate the objects. Now, right now the dimensions are set to the wall dimension layer. In this case, it's the stud. If you're an interior designer, you may want to switch that to surfaces. And then there's options on how to control your dimensions for the walls and then also for the openings. Right now it's going to the sides. Interior designers, you may want that to go to the casing. You can also change that to maybe go to the centers. And once you've made those changes, since it's on auto refresh, you'll notice that the dimensions automatically updated to apply to those properties we just set. As you're doing your floor plan work, you can change your save plan views to different views to control the different layers and the way your dimensions and other things behave. Right now we're in the working plan view. I kind of view this as a temporary workspace, and when I'm actually ready to start creating views that might be set as construction drawing quality, I'll begin to make these changes by selecting the view that I'm interested in. Our program will ship with a half a dozen or so saved plan view configurations that will help you isolate different layers and different looks that you want to do. Let's begin by looking at the floor plan and the kitchen plan. Let's go ahead and switch this to the floor plan dimensioned view. Now you're going to notice when I did that the wall layers turned off. A lot of times in my floor plans I like to see the individual wall layers turned on. I'm going to go ahead and tap on the wall. You'll notice in my active layer display set options tab over here, I can come down and I can turn on the wall layers so I can see those. And if you zoom in and take a look, you can actually see the layers. The dark gray represents the 2x6, and then the other layers and lines are represented with the sheathing and the interior sheetrock. Let's go ahead and center that by pressing F6 on the keyboard. I like this look. I might also check these dimensions. Sometimes I will turn that layer. Sometimes they come in, depending on how you drew those, they're automatic dimensions. I might set that to be on a layer for floor plan specifically so I could isolate it, but that's kind of a preference thing. Now let's take a look at using individual dimensions underneath this floor plan dimension view. And what's happening in this view are the dimension defaults are behaving differently. You'll be able to see that when I switch over and do a little bit of kitchen work. So let's go ahead and take a look at how our dimension tools are working. Let's go ahead and take a look at running our manual dimension tool. And let's just kind of come in here and click and drag and run our manual dimension. Now when you notice that dimension comes in, the arrow has a certain look, and if I zoom in, you'll notice that it's actually going to the gray layer or the stud layer. And when you're an interior designer, you're probably going to want to set that to go to the sheetrock layer. Now these dimensions, you can modify them. If you tap on the dimension, I'm zoomed way in here on this wall, you'll notice a diamond at the end of the arrow. You can always click and drag that around to different locations, center of the wall, other stud, wall finish. So you can manage those dimensions in a very custom way and manual way. I usually like to make sure my dimensions are set up so I usually don't have to change them and they work and they're purpose built. And that's what part of the Save Plan views will help you do because they've got the settings already. So when I switch this to the kitchen view, it will go to the surface area. It will be displayed in inches and not feet in inches. So I use the manual dimension tool to drag that dimension out. Let's take a look. Let me just click on that dimension, press the delete key. Let's take a look at the next dimension. End-to-end dimension will basically go from one end to the other end in between, and again, since it's set to go to the outside layer, it automatically snaps. A few other dimension tools to be aware of. The interior dimension, you can be a little bit sloppy. I can click outside the wall, left click and drag, and it will go right through. And again, this dimension is going to the main or the stud layer of this wall. The Save Plan views are actually managing your dimensions for you. If I came up here and I double click on this dimension tool, you can see that the current dimension default is using this 1/4 inch scale. And as you kind of look through the different settings, mainly on the locate objects, you can see where these dimensions are set up to be selecting, in this case the wall dimension layer, whether it's cabinets, fixtures, furniture, and other items. These are all being controlled. And when I switch this view, let's go ahead and switch this view back. Let me fill my screen here. Let's switch my view over to the kitchen plan and take a look at the difference when we run our dimensions. Now the first thing you're going to notice when I switch that view, you are not seeing the dimensions in this kitchen and bath style view. Also, the wall layers have been turned off. And now when we go in and we select our dimension tool, let's go ahead and use this interior dimension tool. And let's just drag across here. Notice that it's going in inches, and if you zoom way in, this outermost line, dark line, represents the wall finish. The dimensions are going to the wall finish. And when you switch your tool to the manual dimension tool, let's go ahead and zoom out. I'm just using the wheel on my mouse here. And let's just go ahead and drag a dimension through here, and we'll just pull it to the wall and zoom in. These dimensions, again, going to the wall surface. The dimension is going to the casing, and that's because this Save Plan view is switching all of the defaults for your dimension tool. Let's just go back in here, take a look at the differences, and now it's using this kitchen and bath default. It's going to the wall surfaces, and you can see where the settings are controlling things. Down here under openings, it's going to the casing. So by switching those Save Plan views up here, it controls the layer the dimensions are going on, and it controls how your dimensions behave so you can efficiently dimension your plan, whether it's a kitchen plan, an electrical plan, a framing plan. You'll find these Save Plan views can save you a lot of time. You can also create your own Save Plan views and defaults for the way layers, dimensions, and other items such as text behave for your floor plans. I'd like to make you aware of a few more dimension tools when you're creating your floor plans. Let's switch our plan view back to the floor plan dimension view. And one of the tools that you're going to find is when you click in a room and you get your highlight, in the lower edit menu, one of the tools is the auto interior dimensions. And that's a quick way to place your interior dimensions. Notice my living area here. I'll just slide that out of the way. When you click in another room where there's doors and windows and you use the same tool, those dimensions may be a little messy. You can always set your dimension default by coming back up to the defaults and over to your dimensions for the auto interior dimensions, and you could simply change the locate items for your openings. You can just turn that off, and then when you come in here and refresh that dimension, they will clear up. So depending on the level of detail you want for your dimensions, you can use those settings to get exactly what you want. Now, one more interior dimension tool that I like to use if you're a kitchen and bath designer. Let's come back over to the kitchen and bath view, and let me just delete these dimensions that we had in here. I'm going to come over to my library. I'm just going to throw in a sink base so we can see easily how these dimensions are a little bit different. When you click in the room, next to the automatic interior dimensions is an automatic NKBA, stands for National Kitchen and Bath Association dimension. And even though I don't have much detail in that view, when I click on those dimensions, you'll see that the dimensions in this case go on the outside of the wall, but they are to the inside item. So on the top dimension string, that's going to the casing. Off to that sink base cabinet that I placed, there's a centerline dimension in there. And this is an easy way to get a nice clean view of your dimensions. If you take a look at this example that I have up on the screen here, these dimensions look pretty nice using the kitchen and bath dimension tool. Now, one final thing about dimensions, when you tap on an object, in this case this cabinet, and you don't have existing dimensions, notice I have dimensions going on the side, but I don't have any dimensions going in this direction. You can use these temporary dimensions. They're dimensions that are only temporary when you click on an object, and you can tap on those and type in a value too. When you don't have permanent or dimensions you've already placed, those temporary dimensions can help you place and position walls or architectural objects. Now, one final parting comment before we close the video, let's take a 3D overview here using this perspective floor overview camera. I mentioned previously that you can set the room heights. If you have gable walls and you're tempted to set different wall heights are controlled by room heights. And if you want to change the room height, you can click in the room and open it up, and you can change the room height underneath the structure panel. Now, in this case, I have two different rooms, and when you get a floor plan, chances are you're going to have many rooms. Be careful when you try to set different room heights using these values in here and they don't match all the other rooms. You can do it. I wanted to make you aware that sometimes when you're setting room heights that it can be an issue when you're stacking multiple floors over one another. Well, thanks for watching the video. To learn more about how the program works, we have an additional floors video and we also have a built-in help file. Thanks for watching the video.